Dungeon Masters of Reddit, which of your sure why nots had the biggest unintended repercussions? I started a campaign where the group was coming together at a coastal town. A massive titan rose from the water some distance from shore and was meant to be a cinematic incident triggering a chain of prophetic events. But there's one in every group. Among the level 1s, one of the guys decided he was going to swim out and challenge the thing. It wasn't what I intended, but I allowed it and forced stat checks once he got into deep enough water since he didn't have the swim skill. He failed and started drowning. Cue the I'll save him from another player. Failed stat check for that person as well. So now 2 are drowning. This continued until the entire party was drowning just offshore, because none of them knew how to swim and all failed their checks. I stared at the chaos and said frick it. Lucky for them a pod of dolphins came to the rescue. As their characters lay half drowned in the sand, I made it abundantly clear they had used up their only Jimmy for that campaign and to make smarter character driven choices. I've seen this exact scenario happen in Pikmin. Minus the dolphins. RIP non-blow Pikmin. I threw in a random NPC passed out at the tavern everyone was meeting at to discuss their D&D job. Next thing I know, the party is following him home, staking out his house, etc. Turns out the fact that he had a purple coat on was too interesting and my initial campaign got scrapped so they could defeat the purple coats who were plotting to take over the government. Who knew? I had an alchemist and a tinkerer engineer in one of my games. Both were obsessed with blowing things up and I let them experiment with different things. Well, they ended up making a metal vase that would direct the explosion in a single direction. I thought they would use it to nuke bad guys. One session they were trekking through a mountain pass and I had intentionally taken out a bridge that was the only way across a gorge to force the players to go through a mountain pass, which was basically the next 2 sessions. They ended up using said vase they had made before to create a rocket sled. I gave them a really high DC to succeed. Nat 20. The whole party flew over this gorge hanging onto a sled for D-life. Welp, there goes 2 weeks of prep work and the next 2 sessions. It screwed me, but it was definitely a memorable moment. The most carefully laid plans of DMs are often thrown awry by players who just come up with the stupidest, craziest crap. The key to being a good DM, as I'm sure you know, is being able to roll with it. I started just writing vague notes, cue cards, and filling in the blanks as I went exactly because my friends had a habit of taking things off the rails. Players were navigating through an evil sentient house that was toying with them. When they got to the end of the house and helped bury the dead, the house wasn't too pleased, but whatever. It would get more souls from other adventurers coming on. Then the monk decided to start punching the walls of the house and cursing it, because why not? Monk walked through a door and took a critical hit from a swing blade and insta-gibbed him. Rest of the party apologized to the house and was let out. Character wanted a deck of many things-esque D20 that manifested random magic effects when rolled. Sure, why not? One of the bad effects was everyone had to make a save, and if they failed, they became hostile towards the character. So it happens a few times. Character knows full well that his die can make that happen. And they meet Gresh, the unspeakable, the council leader of a town ruled by ghosts, reputed to have conquered entire worlds in life. He rolls the die upon meeting him, and it lands on the hostility effect. Gresh, being a ghost, possesses the character and makes him slit his own throat. Dang, Gresh has no chill. My group of players had just defeated an evil spirit that could possess the bodies of the recently deceased to gain the strength, attributes, memories, etc. of the dead. Basically, the person who died and the spirit who possessed the body were difficult to tell apart aside from the spirit's ultimate driving purpose, to live in the most powerful body it could and to obey the commands of its creator. Well, the party member who died during the fight asked me in private if the spirit could have taken over his body despite the party following a ritual and destroying its true form. Sure, why not? That's a cool way to bring the character back. The party knew the limits and motivations and everything right now, so I figured they'd figure out the mysteriously resurrected party member was the spirit. Nope, they didn't pick up on it. Only the player who was brought back knew, and he didn't share the secret. Well, they eventually fought the spirit's master, and let's just say that boy was that a huge reveal. That's freaking brilliant. Traveler game about 30 years ago, my first campaign. Players decided to rob a bank on a high-tech domed Ellis. Significant later, whirled in the spinward marches. To defeat security, they befriended, then poisoned an Imperial Marine and stole his power armor and fusion rifle. I allowed it, like a fool. They robbed the bank, but the Marine had been reported missing and so the military and police were both closing in. After a running fight they made it to their ship, and made some ridiculous rolls to not get shot down. By this time, the body count was in 3 figures and they've pee off everyone with a gun within several hours. So, by the time they exit the dome, they're intercepted by several naval ships, including a cruiser. They had no chance, and they knew it. The only sensible thing to do was surrender and be boarded. They knew that too. So of course they dived the ship straight into the main dome, burning at 2.5 grams. The dome blew, and everything died, including my idiot players and my campaign. 6 million people dead. Still the biggest atrocity I've ever seen in a tabletop RPG. Learned a lot from that one. I had a trap laid in waiting of a bunch of orcs and wargs that were posing as beggars. My lawful good cleric offered to give them aid and money, and asked if there was anyone hurt. I rolled with it, thinking a room would be a better trap for them. He then proceeded to heal the aging leader, gaining his trust and the respect of the gang. The ranger did some animal handling to clean the wargs up and make them healthier. They then had a loyal group of street thugs to gather info off of. This then spun off into a side campaign of only orcs that was crazy fun and was used for fill-in when I wasn't ready to DM for a session. Whenever our current DM isn't ready for a week, one of the other people in our group takes over and we get the gang back together. Mostly bard campaign where we are a traveling band. There's usually not much combat but boy is it fun. Sorcerer decided they wanted to magic jar one of 2 Gravnik knights facing them. Sure, why not? Then the sorcerer decided that they liked their new body and went about trying to murder their companions. That character became a recurring minor villain for much of the remainder of that campaign. Context: I wasn't familiar with item prices, or how much gold the party had saved. This was a party of 8. Is 2,000 reasonable price for legendary magic items? Sure, why not? Cool. I'm buying a staff of the Major, and everyone else will buy 1 legendary magic item. Internal monologue. Crap. Another I was the player. As a halfling in the Warhammer universe, we came across a herd of goats. I attempted to tame one of said goats and succeeded. I then checked if my halfling could ride said goat and the GM allowed it. GM thought he could kill it off easily. GM was dead wrong. My halfling rode that goat into heck and back. Good times. We were playing D20 and my girlfriend was running the campaign. It was set in this post-apocalyptic wasteland, and we were just coming up from the underground. Upon reaching the surface, due to radiation ect, we were supposed to pick a new power or physical feature. I picked something like the ability to go invisible or some crap. I don't remember. My brother who was playing with us is trying to come up with something for his character and he sheepishly asks, can I have lady legs? We thought he was joking until I saw his expression. My girlfriend goes, I guess. So he took lady legs as his perk and proceeded to successfully attract a key NPC we needed in order to get into a building. Guess it was worth it. Sometimes you learn more than you wish you knew about your friends when you play DnD. Let a rogue hide in a pickle barrel while being chased by guards. Guards noticed the displaced pickle juice and came to check it out. Rogue sneak attacks out of the pickle barrel for a critical hit and kills him. Rogue pulls him away and gets back in the pickle barrel. Kills 2 more guards like this. They ended up lugging that freaking pickle barrel through the whole dungeon, setting it up, drawing attention to it, and jack-in-the-boxing people. Zelda Windwaker FTW. One of the players in my group asked if they could add a new person into the game. Sure, why not? New player joins. I want to play a ranger and a bit of a loner. Sure, why not? A few sessions in and the new player is not adjusting well. She wanted D&D to be more like watching Legolas in LOTR. Never miss and completely awesome. On top of that, she wants to constantly go off on her own and not really be a part of the group. Both her and her character. I am running a combat where the party gets split up and divided and there is a heavy fog in the area. She sees our druid as a bear wreaking house and generally being a bear, and says I'm going to shoot the bear. Now I'm not one to limit player choices, but I caution her. In the context of the fight it could have been seen as an accident. and let her know this would be an acceptable time to metagame. She does it anyway. Druid in game shifts back and says it's me. Ranger says I knew that. And then I just let the fight between them play out. And that was the last time I saw the ranger as a person. Letting a real life chem major have access to a bunch of raw materials. Bombs for days. Boys. A girl in my group started doing this with fire bombs. Normally, my DM would have ruled that just because you know how to make bombs doesn't mean your character does, but she had proficiency in alchemist supplies, so that argument flew out the window. I used to DM for a small group. Most of the people were a lot of fun to play with, but we had one dude, referred to as M, that was always arguing with me or other players and generally disrupting the flow of the game in the name of the rules or quality. Sorry for the length. M was one of those people that subscribed to a DnD magazine and was constantly comparing my adventures to the ones he was reading about that week. After a while I got tired of all the negativity and offered to let him DM so I could have a chance simply playing the game instead. Sure, why not? M spends a week planning, drawing up actual maps with a protractor and compass on graph paper to create an accurate scale map of the adventure. His latest D&D magazine had a puzzle emphasis, so of course that played a major role. When it's time to play, M hands us all hand-drawn maps and the adventure begins. M. You find yourselves in the town of X. In the crisp summer air you smell X and see X. This is happening. That is happening. Suddenly one of you notice a wizard's tournament is taking place. Guy 1. I start looking around for a tavern. Guy 2. Are there any weapon shops? M. No. You need to figure out how to enter the tournament. Guy 3. I'm not a wizard. I don't want to do it. Guy 1 and 2. Mumble in agreement. M. Let's just start the tournament, okay? So as you all enter the first room you notice a pit that is approximately 9 feet in diameter that extends to the walls of your room. On the ground in front of you lay 2 boards. One 4 feet 7 inches, one 6 feet long. Guy 4. I take a running start and try to hurdle the pit running along the wall. M. No, you don't want to do that. It has something to do with the boards. Guy 1. Can we leave to go get a long enough board to cross over? Me. I kick the boards into the pit. M. At this point he melts down. No, it's simple, okay? This is the first puzzle and you guys aren't even trying. All you would have to do is lay the boards in a T shape to cross it. Guy 1. Math was never really my thing. Guy 2. No kidding. I am more of a visual person when it comes to stuff like that. M. Violently tears down his screen, collects his dice, and goes home. We never played together again. A sure why not destroyed our entire party. Nah, a DM who wouldn't let his group have fun ruined the party. M8. All of these stories are reminding me that the one DM I had that sucked. I had the power to talk to animals. First thing that happens in the quest is a wolf comes out of the woods and tries to attack us. I insisted on talking to the wolf. The DM stated I wasn't allowed. I questioned why I had the power then. He then let me talk to the wolf, and I asked it why it was attacking us. Because was the answer I got. This was the first time I played and it sucked. I ended up playing a game with a different group not too long after, and the DM was great in letting us do stupid crap like that and had a pretty good story for random things happening. My first DM almost ruined the game for me, lol. One of my friends asked once to be able to put spells inside of a bag of holding and the DM went, why not, you can't safely retrieve them. So at the end of the day the sorcerer would and spent spells as fireballs into the bag. End of the campaign, after putting a lot of fireballs into the bag they were up against the BBEG. He used Dimension Door to get next to the boss and then he turned the bag inside out. Blew himself and the boss straight to heck. Kamikaze attacks are always fun. Not the DM, but a companion to the player that did it. DM designed a boss lair with a column of flowing lava. He only intended it to be there for aesthetic, and a potential pitfall for the players. The boss was an immense behemoth. The team mage was a first time player and shyly asked if their magic could allow them to do something with the lava. DM said sure, why not? The mage proceeded to get a notably high sense check roll, and then rolled a nat 20 on their action, which the team persuaded the DM into interpreting that the entire lava flow was magically bent and directed at the boss. What was supposed to be a penultimate boss was literally one shot by the most novice player. I had an NPC accompanying the party for a bit. They were going to be traveling for a while by ship, so I made sure he had talking points. I wrote him a backstory and did my best to cover bases and anticipate questions the party would have. Over time it came out that this NPC had a lost love. He told them that he cut ties with her because he knew he was going to be gone for years and didn't think that would be fair to her. The party convinced him to go back and try to rekindle that relationship. Several very high rolls later, he agrees. What followed was my single greatest session as a DM. Tension, resolution, emotion, laughter, character development. It ended with a wedding, a party, and everyone literally in tears from laughing so hard. Still the standard I hold myself to. It's been a wonderful experience. More detail please. Not the DM, but the player who asked to allow something. Final session of the campaign, we're working our way through a labyrinth. We discover that the godlike BBEG had created identical clones of us, so we had to fight ourselves before getting to him. Upon killing Clone Me, I asked whether I could take Clone Me's gold to double my total income. Sure, why not? They have all of your weapons and items. Emphasis mine. His reasoning was it's the final session. What does it matter? Light bulb. So then after we split up, I managed to find who I was looking for, the clone of the artificer. Killed him and took his bag of holding. I told the DM I wanted to grab the bag and get the scooter out of it. This campaign had some weird time distortion stuff, so we had some random real world items. He allowed it. Sweet. Boost to movement speed. He figured it was the last session, so who cares? We get to the final boss. Artificer knows I have the clone's bag of holding. We lock eyes and grin. For those unaware, placing a bag of holding inside an extra dimensional space created by a handy haversack, portable hole, or similar item instantly destroys both items and opens a gate to the astral plane. The gate originates where the one item was placed inside the other. Any creature within 10 feet of the gate is sucked through it to a random location on the astral plane. The gate then closes. The gate is one way only and can't be reopened. He throws me his bag of holding, and I scooter up to BBEG and place his bag of holding inside of mine. Poof, we're both gone. End of campaign. Ultimately the group ruled not to allow it, because they wanted to actually fight. The DM, my brother, was rather irritated lol. TL. DR. DM said sure, why not, allowing duplicated items. I took advantage and used 2 bags of holding to defeat the BBEG. Players had to reach an island with no bridge ship access across piranha-infested waters. A paladin's plan was to bless the beef jerky in his inventory to give it more longevity, throw it in the water, and swim for dear life. I let it pass, and of course he rolled a 20, causing the jerky to become infinite jerky, thus distracting the piranhas long enough for the party to casually tread their way to the island. We had 2 in the party that could raise and control the dead. Ended up having half a dozen skeletons that would go first into every room. Each got their own hit rolls. If one of them was defeated by whatever it was fighting, as soon as the fight was over, they would just raise dead again and use them for the next fight, plus whatever we just fought added on to the end of the parade. We basically did nothing the whole time because the DM said sure why not when they wanted to have a skeleton army. My enemy mage has a fireball spell it would like to show you. In a sci-fi mecha campaign, one of my players asked if he could get out of his mech during a mission. It was an infiltration mission, so I figured some stealthy boots on the ground would help. Sure, why not? This became a running habit for him, up to the point that it became a running joke. I decided I'd do something about it, but it backfired hilariously. One of our other players had literally never taken damage the entire campaign. She'd earned a reputation as an unkillable badass and hero of the resistance. However, during a fight against an enemy ace, she took a single massive crit, totally unplanned, that crumpled her mech and nearly killed her. Cockpit Boy avenged her with a heroic effort of his own, downing the ace's mech before hopping out to attend to his injured comrade. Just as he got her stabilized, there was a sound behind him as the enemy ace climbed into his open mech and aimed its guns right at him. Undeterred, Cockpit Boy demanded a charisma check to call the enemy ace a coward and challenge him to come down and fight like a real man. He succeeded, so the ace obliged, all 6'11" of him. Naturally, our hero made a cold shot to the nuts and rolled a crit. The table died laughing and the day was saved. I hope he was shirtless and came out of the mech yelling "Bruotha." I offered one of my players to earn easy XP by paying off some old lady's debt after finishing a session. The old woman was just a random NPC, but the players asked if there was anything they could do to help. I was figuring that this would just be an easy swap of money for XP. To my surprise, he started asking me really pointed questions about her interest rate, collateral, principal investments, etc. Long story short, my players ended up inventing credit cards within this campaign setting. I had to keep track of their outstanding balances, minimum payments, and interest rates for several months afterwards. Glad they didn't have a stock system or you'd been fricked. Playing Tomb of Annihilation, a setting in which the players trek across a jungle island in search of a secret city which houses the cause of a death curse. There is only one human settlement, called Port Nyazaru. The thing about this city is that there are dinosaur races every week or so, races that you can bet on. My players, Druid and Sorcerer, wanted to try their hand at betting on these races. The problem was that they didn't have enough money, so me being the dumb DM decided that they could loan 1000 GP in order to bet on the race. Thinking that if they lost I could have some fun sending loan sharks after them. They proceeded to bet on the slowest of the dinosaurs which had the biggest payout. The druid used his druidic magic in order to manipulate the race, and with good sleight of hand skill checks, they managed to win the bet and get a crap ton of money. The first thing they did was to pay off their current debt to the loan sharks. After that they decided to buy a dinosaur so they could enter the race with their own dinosaur. But in order to house such a creature they bought a small plot of land outside of the city. They hired a personal caretaker for said dinosaur, a triceratops named Turbo BTW. From here on out it was all about their dinosaur racing business. They did enter the jungle for expeditions, but on these expeditions they would search out dinosaurs, tame them and bring them to their plot of land. That keeps getting bigger and bigger because they have told their trusty caretaker to enter the dinner races and bet on their dinosaur. They don't win all the time, but they win enough to break even. They started to get even more ambitious and decided that the next course of action was to take over the whole island. Their plot of land was no longer a mere dinosaur farm. They extended with barracks, guards, towers, a port, etc. They then went on to overtake the small factions that are currently residing on the island with the use of the handy dominate person spell. They currently have a fleet of 4 ships. They recently took over a frost giant ship, 100 personnel, 6 dinosaurs and still have a crap ton of money. Now plans are being made to overthrow the current rules of the city and take it over. This was all because I messed up a year and a half ago in our first session. TLDR gave the party too much gold. They are currently plotting to take over an entire island. Welcome to Jurassic Park. I was a recipient of the shore. Why not in this? We decided to play an evil group terrorizing the kingdom our other regular group of heroes was defending. I wanted to play a devil, but I did not care too much for what was in the book. So the DM had an idea to allow me to establish contracts for souls in exchange for some power, namely improving my natural spellcasting abilities, an attribute, or a featuring. However, there were a ton of hoops I had to run through to pull it off. So it was just a thing my character did from time to time. This was until I befriended another character in the group, a priest with lots of charisma and manipulating abilities. So, we made a deal. I showed him what souls could do to me, and if he helped me get a lot of souls, I would protect him as his second in command. Like our characters, our DM was a very lawful kind of guy, so he kept his word, even though he tried to make things tougher. Slowly we convinced a small village to sign their souls to me, and in turn I would protect them. Because I was getting incredibly OP, that was quite easy to do, including against others in the group who were hunting for someone in hiding there. End result, my character was completely unbalanced. The main plot we were pursuing was derailed to the point of no return, and the few next games were just me and the priest ruling the city as benevolent tyrant slowly establishing an empire. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.